Hey, what's going on, Facebook Live family? This your boy, Brother Leon. I am back. So I just want to tell you guys I was down at the protest. I posted some pictures, some podcasts. I did a couple interviews. I did a message. So I want you guys to know, man, why the reason behind the protest is that people are fed up. Because if America is supposed to be the land of the free, the home of the brave, if all men are created equal, we need to see that. And so the reason why we are protesting is because not only for George Floyd, but also for Breonna Taylor, for Ahmaud Arbery, because we see the systems of racism that has infiltrated every aspect of our way of life. I'm gonna tell you right now, man, that racism is not only spiritual, but it's systematic and it's also institutionalized. It's in every institution. It's in law enforcement. It's in the Justice Department. It's in politics. It's in real estate. It's in banking. Every system of man has racism. And the crazy part about it is that we have to call it what it is. I'm just coming from the aspect of the church. And so if we as the church can get to the place where we begin to confess our sins, that we may be healed, and admit the part that we played in slavery, how we took African slaves and brought them over here, how we took the gospel, how we took Christianity and brought it over here and twisted it and turned it into a religion that would manipulate and not show people how to think and not show people how to be free. Because our faith is supposed to make us free, but they will give you religion to keep you in bondage. Why do you think that the church sanctions slavery? To keep people in bondage, because you got to understand what the church represented. The church represented the moral compass. So if the church gives me the okay, then God is on my side. But I want you to know that God is the God of the oppressed. And if God is the God of the oppressed, and he has called us as men and women of God to lift up our voice like a trumpet and show Israel the errors, the sins, their ways. Show America its sin. But the one thing about it is that America and the church, the white church, the black church, they do not want to be revealed. They do not want to be revealed. They do not want to expose. They do not want to be honest in the place and in the accountability of how it was okay with it, because racism came in on the church's watch. It came in on the church's watch. It came in on the church's watch, not just with the black slaves, but also with the Jews. Every type of slavery, every type of bondage and murder, the church sanctioned it. Look up history, because people will have you believe that our country is in the state that it's in because of the aborted babies. It's not just the aborted babies. It's every life. Because every life belongs to the Lord. Every seed belongs to the Lord. So I want you guys to know, man, this protest was bigger than I imagined, because I didn't know that there was different protests happening all over the place. I saw that 95 got shut down. I was at Rodney Square. And so I just want you guys to know, man, that this is what the church is supposed to do. This is what the church is supposed to represent. We're not only supposed to pray, but we stand with our brothers in solidarity. We put away our denominational differences and get out here and stand for the cause of Christ. The cause of Christ is to remove the burden and destroy the yoke. So my thing and the reason why I'm like, church, we got to get this thing together, because justice can begin at the house of God. Judgment begins at the house of God. And it also says in the word of God that if we would judge ourselves, we will not be judged. But there has to come accountability. There has to come responsibility and transparency. So pastors, we have to have that hard conversation. We have to have that hard conversation, because I'm going to tell you right now, if we sit up here and try to skate around the issue. Don't call white supremacy, and do not call white privilege, and do not call systematic racism, institutional racism, and call out those who are silent on the issue, then we are just as guilty as what we see on TV. And then we have the nerve to talk about the pain or talk about the rioting when we see it, but rioting is the language of the unheard. Martin Luther King said that. And you have to begin to look at people's voices are not being heard. And we are being sold out by the church. We are being sold out by our political figures, black and white, because they want the platform of the church, and then they get in there. And then they pay off people. People are being brought even in our political arenas. People are being bought in our civic associations. And they get in here because they want the influence. And as soon as they get in there, they give you promises and then they don't even follow through. I think the thing that hurt me the most today is hearing about black officials voting against body cameras. And I'm always hearing about the city of Wilmington that they never have any money. But I'm like, this is a priority. This is a priority to stop things like this from happening. This is a priority. I even heard today that there's nobody on city council that has access to a police officer's manual. So that needs to be addressed because we have to have the conversation around policies, around operating procedures. We need to have that conversation. So I want you guys to know that not only do we need to pray, we need to put pressure on our officials and say, hey, we need this information. Because I look at it like this: as long as the FOP stays a secret, as long as the department stays a secret, we have got to get to the place where there are no more secrets. If there is nothing to hide, then make it so that it's visible. That's the God knows truth. Make it so that it is visible. Because I'm sick and tired of hearing about chokeholds. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing about, they didn't go against the manual. But here it is. I'm like, hold on. They got that in the manual that it's okay to choke out somebody? They got it in the manual that it's okay to put a knee on somebody? Yo, we need to get a hold of the manual to see what needs to be taken out. Because they always coming out here when it's time for a contract. So when you want contract, let us see what's happening with the manuals. Let us see who you are vetting to put in our communities. This is why we protest. This is why we need the voice of the church. Because if the community is going to say it, it needs to first be said in the church, because the community goes to the churches. So I'm calling upon every pastor. I love the fact Pastor D was out there. This is my first time seeing Pastor D. This is my first time seeing him in action. And I love the fact that he was out there. I love the fact that McKee Booker was out there. Thank you for all the organizers that were at Rodney Square. I thank you, because, man, this just gave me wind under my wings, because for a minute there, I was going crazy. I was going crazy because, number one, I was like, Lord, I know they see it. I know the church sees this, but we have got to get to the place where we are not silent. Martin Luther King says it is not the words of our enemies that we will remember. It will be the silence of our friends. And I'm looking at how many friends do I have in church? And they try to make this an issue of faith when it's an issue of principle. How many friends do I have in church that they are silent, but they got revelation out the yin yang? Have prayer meeting all night, but can't even stand for an hour out here. Can you not tarry 1 hour with those who are hurting? Because this is what God has called us to. This is what God has called us to. It's not to sit in our buildings and disregard the community. It's about us getting out here. It's about us getting involved, because there needs to be people who have the heart of God that are in law enforcement, who will not sell out the community for the sake of the secrecy that's behind the badge, because there is secrecy behind the badge. There is a brotherhood when you take that oath, because there is an oath. There is a pledge. And some people are committed to the badge more than they are committed to the community, to life, to Bible. And these are the things that need to be addressed, because I look at it like this. You do not know what happens after the academy. Because once you get out here, you end up hooking up with a veteran police officer, and you don't know what his views are. You don't know what their views are. And they're going to tell you, look, I'm going to show you stuff that ain't in the academy. I'm going to train you. And you don't know whether or not that person has been exposed to white supremacy, white privilege, and racism. You don't know what their views are and their thoughts are towards people of color, even in the community that they police. Seriously. So, you know, people may say, man, I'm just getting sick and tired of hearing you talk about this. You are repeating yourself. Yes, I am going to be saying something about this until something is done, until something is changed. Because at this point right now, we cannot wait. Justice delayed is justice denied. Man, we have been waiting. We have done everything that we could possibly do, and still things have not changed. We protest, NFL protests, fire them sons of bitches, talk about Africa, shithole countries, talk about the looting, the rioting and the looting in Minneapolis. When the shooting when the looting starts, the shooting starts. But when you look at Minneapolis, you see Philando Castile. You see that was injustice. When you look at the case of Muhammad Noor and Jennifer Damon, you see that they prosecuted him as a police officer. He was a person of color and she was a white woman. But they did not do the smear campaign on the white woman like they do on the countless black bodies. I think the thing that crushed me the most is seeing Tamir Rice get shot and then they smear campaign his parents. Bringing about their criminal background, as to change the narrative, saying that if they would have been home, if they weren't criminals, then maybe he wouldn't have been shot. So I'm just here to tell you, man, that there definitely is a contrast. But the one thing that I also want to do is this, and I want to say this, and I want to say this loud. We cannot attack our allies. We cannot attack our allies. So I was glad to see, man, that there were people of different races at this protest. I had the opportunity to interview a pastor who was out there standing for the sake of Pentecost, as well as solidarity, you know, for the cause that we're in right now. And I had the chance to interview him. His name is Pastor Matt Waters, who pastors Esmere Presbyterian Church. So, yo, if you're around in that area, check him out and tell him Brother Leon said, hey. Also, I had the chance to interview a living legend in Wilmington, Sam Guy. I remember him, man, when he used to wear them track suits and man, in that luxury car, him. I remember him from Newcastle County. So, you know, he gave me the 411 on some of the things that the city is doing. He also gave me the 411 on why things are not being done. So we got to begin, man, to start checking our representatives and see how they vote, because just because you are a person that is black and an elected official does not mean that you are for the cause of the community. So, you know, I'm going to tell you, man, yo, they'll give you a sidewalk. They will give you a picnic, a book bag drive. They will give you a turkey for Thanksgiving. But you need to begin to check the voting record. Because if there's someone that is voting against body cameras, why are you voting against that when that is needed? Seriously, why are you voting against body cameras? And have the nerve to say that the city ain't got no money. Man, city ain't got no money, please. They got a tax for everything. They got a storm water drain maintenance tax. Storm drain maintenance tax. Meaning basically you got a tax for them going out there and cleaning up them leaves, and half the time they don't even do that. Yes, I said it. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, please. And the one thing I want to say is that those of you who want to complain and talk about nothing is getting done, let me ask you this. Are you voting? Because if you want to sit around and say ain't nothing going to be done and you ain't out here voting and you ain't out here standing with those who are out here protesting and letting their voice be heard, you part of the problem. Especially, man, I'm calling all of y'all out, seriously. Because this don't make no sense, man, that they, we have been so assimilated. We have been so assimilated that we get to the place where we will begin to talk about black on black crime. And you believe that myth, and you see it on TV, you see it on social media. And the crazy part about all of this is that there are programs, there are bots, there are people who are sanctioned by white supremacist networks to be used as a tool. Because you got to understand that white supremacy has the same language that Malcolm X used. By any means necessary. By any means necessary, white supremacists will use anybody as a tool, anything as a tool, such as social media, such as black faces that have sold out, such as pastors that have sold out, black, white, however you want to call them, such as community leaders that have sold out, such as educated and articulate black men and women that have sold out, Hispanic men and women that have sold out, people in law enforcement that have sold out. And this is how they work. They will use you as a tool, as a pawn, to get up here and say the reason, oh man, they up here, they burning up their own community. But you're not even saying about the injustice that caused them to do that. You're not even talking about the fact that these voices have gone unheard for so long. You're not even talking. So when you say, hey, they burning up stuff, or black on black crime, I'm like, yo, man, you done been assimilated, in my opinion. You part of the problem. Because crime is about proximity. You never hear white on white crime. You never hear Asian on Asian crime. But when it comes to us, it's always us. When it comes to protesting and rioting and looting, they always show us. But it's white people out there too. When Joe Paterno got fired, y'all need to remember that. When they won the big games, you need to remember that. And you also need to look at the fact of how they changed the narrative when they see us, how they change the narrative when they deal with us, how the media is using a false narrative to make us look away from the issue at hand. Because I'm going to tell you right now, man, look, what is happening right now is that all of us, including myself today, because of this issue, we had to go out here. And if we can go out here in the midst of a pandemic and fight for our rights, we can get out here and vote. And that is what we need to do. They got people fighting against mail-in ballots. They got people fighting all over the place. But the one thing I want you guys to know that we have to vote. If you do not vote, you do not have a voice. If you have not filled out your census form, you do not have a voice. Because I'm going to tell you right now, man, gentrification only comes because we allow it. We get these sold out. We get sold out by these politicians, and they sell out their constituents because we allow it. Because number one, we don't look into how they vote. We don't look into the fact, okay, what's their background? And then we get surprised when they get indicted on fraud. Because we have not looked into what they voted for. We have not looked into the fact of where they come from. Because I'm going to tell you, man, some of these people, churches, pastors, and elected officials, some of them get paid by government officials to sway people another way or even to shut up. Hey, we'll give you this. Just keep your mouth off of this until I get this passed. And then the crazy part about it, they end up having, and I'm going to tell you this, they'll end up having city meetings at 4 o'clock knowing that can't nobody get there. They'll have city meetings and vote on stuff around the time that everybody's at work, knowing that can't nobody come there and challenge them. So they'll have stuff at 2 o'clock. They'll have stuff someplace where you can't even park. Yes, I said it. Because it happens all the time. And you got to see, man, how the political machine works, how the church machine works, and you got to look at the secrecy that is behind every institution. Government, law enforcement, church. But it all started with the church. because the church is supposed to be the moral compass. And if the church is the moral compass that it's supposed to be, when the church says that slavery is okay, that Jim Crow is okay, that Willie Lynch is okay, then that means I got a stamp from God to do what I do. And you had some pastors that were pastors preaching on Sundays and lynching Sunday night. Yes, I said it. So we got to begin to confess our sins that we may be whole. Because I'm going to tell you, man, this whole thing is woven into every part of our society. I don't care where. And it's not going to go away until we are honest with ourselves. It's not going to go away until we begin to say what part we played. And that's the God knows truth. It's not going to go away. So I want you guys to understand and know it is not until we get together. Because the Bible says, how can two walk together except they be agreed? They have to be agreed that we are equals on the same road. They have to agree that you are my brother, that you are my sister, and I do not see you less than. We are equal to. So if we are equal to, then that means that we can get things done. So I want you guys to know, man, that, it was worth it. It was worth it today to be at the protest. It's worth it because there's going to be one tomorrow. So if you didn't have a chance today, go on out tomorrow. Seriously. I mean, you can say whatever you want to say. You can call Brother Leon a sellout. You can say it don't take all that. Yes, it does take all that. I'm serious. And even to some of my church friends, yes, it takes all that. This is what our faith is for. So tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a message on Facebook Live talking about the response of the preacher. Because the thing is that if God has called us to preach, then we are supposed to preach about issues like this. And I look at it like this. Martin Luther King was a gift. But I look at it like this. We have the opportunity to learn from the spirit that was behind the gift and learn from what he taught us. Because this is an issue about freedom. The one thing that I loved about him is that, and I see it, is that when he started to talk about equality around the whole board, a level playing field, that's when people got upset. Because when you start talking economic freedom, when you start talking about, equality for all, and that means all, that means, I have the opportunity to live where you live. I have the opportunity to have the same job that you have. I have the opportunity to make the type of money that you're making. A lot of people don't like that because they want you to have a right to vote. They feel like that you should have the same access that I have. But some people don't want you to be on the same level as them. And that is the problem. Because when you don't want me on the same level, you make me feel, and you feel as though that I am inferior and that you are superior. And that is why racism and prejudice and white supremacy and white privilege exists. Because they feel that that label of nigger and inferiority is something that makes us less than. So I want you guys to know, man, that God, he is for us. So on that note, I got somebody knocking on the door. I'll talk to you later. Peace.